Hi, friends. Welcome to the Simple Doesn't Mean Easy podcast. We are here twice a week, simplifying things in our lives, one day at a time, one simple step at a time. I'm your host, Michelle Visser, and I'm excited about what we're talking about today. Okay, maybe excited is the wrong word. I'm eager to bring you this information because it's it is. It's eye opening. Before we start, though, I want to explain that we're actually going to skip on our Friday episodes for just a few weeks until fall. Um, I'm actually going to live what I preach about simplifying things. And there's only a few weeks left of my favorite season in New England, amazing weather, lots of things going on around here. And I'm just going to take a slight break. So we're going to rejoin up with the whole theme we were doing on Fridays of non toxic living and some products I have found that have been life changing. There's lots of good stuff coming, but just not for a few weeks. So join me when fall hits and we will dive back into that topic on Fridays. But for now, it's just going to be Mondays. Before we dive into this episode, I have a quick question for you. What do you think might be the most underrated crop in the average garden? I think it's garlic. This was the first year I planted garlic and I'm in love. Go to territorialseed.com/simple to see what I'm talking about and grab a discount code. I love the fact that you can plant garlic in the fall when it's a slower time, not in the craziness of spring. And I love that there's two options to choose from: hardneck, which gives you a spicier flavor, and two harvest, because you can harvest the scapes before the garlic. But the soft neck garlic gives you a longer shelf life. So you know what? I recommend you try some of both. Territorialseed.com/simple. It's also a fantastic companion plant. I planted mine by my broccoli and Brussels sprouts, and it has helped repel the cabbage moths all summer long. Don't wait though, because the garlic will sell out quickly. It does every year. If you wait, it might be gone next week. So go to territorialseed.com/simple and take advantage of the discount as well. So today's episode, we're going to dive into this topic. Guys, we can't rely on government agencies to make the decisions that are most important for us and our families. We can't allow a government agency to decide what our children should be learning every day. We can't allow the government to tell us what doctor we need to see and what medical decisions we need to make for us and our children. And we definitely can't rely on a government agency to tell us what food and drinks are safe and healthy and nutritious for us and our families. If you think that government agencies are policing all of these topics and that they have your best interests at heart, then I'm sorry, but you are being naive. And I have a story for you today that is going to make this crystal clear. A few years ago, a company named Daily Harvest, which I'll be honest, I did not know of them. Maybe I'm living in a hole because apparently they're a very huge, very popular company. If you go over to Instagram, they have something like almost 600,000 followers. They're a big account. I think it's a pretty big company. And it's backed by celebrities like big time. Lots of big famous names are promoting their food. It's a food brand that's really popular for, I believe, primarily their meatless protein foods, I think. Um, they announced a launch back in 2022 of a new food that they called, I think it was Crumbles. And it was, um, I'm not even certain, but it was supposed to be high in protein and a really healthy snack. And within, I think it was like 4 to 6 weeks, they recalled all of this food. And across social media, all of a sudden, it was like exploding with people talking about these crumbles and how they impacted them, how they impacted their health. And there were even some famous people who were like influencers promoting these crumbles who were saying, wait a minute, these made me super sick. And in the end, officially documented, there were 393 people who were very, very sick, and 133 of them were hospitalized. But the crazy thing is, this is what really got my attention about this story when I saw it. was there were, out of those 133 people, a large percentage of them had permanent organ damage. And some of them were quoted as saying they ate Crumbles 2 times, but they were able to trace back that that is what caused their medical issues and the organ damage. I read about one lady who literally had her gallbladder removed after eating Crumbles on 2 occasions. So it was never officially confirmed as far as I could find in my searches, but it looked like a lot of studies were backing that all of this was coming from something called terraflower. It's made from a legume that's grown in Peru, and the legume is dried and turned into this flour. And this was an ingredient in this food that was causing people to have organ failure after just 1 or 2 times of eating it. So here's why I'm telling you the story. I wanted you to start thinking about, wait a minute, was this FDA approved food? Yes. Well, how would something get FDA approved and be causing these horrible, severe, immediate health problems from something that's been traced back to one ingredient? Why was this one ingredient approved by the FDA? That is what we're diving into today. And it's really mind boggling. A national media spokesperson from the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics said this about terraflower. We just don't know much about it yet. I recommend you always check the ingredient label of any type of prepared food that you're going to eat and confirm there is no terraflower in it. So wait a minute, guys, we can't trust the FDA that they have done something to recall this ingredient that shouldn't have even been there in the first place. But basically, we have to be our own policeman, our own watchman, and we have to be looking at our list of ingredients and making sure that this potentially like deadly ingredient is not in our prepared food. So I mean, in the end, it makes you wonder, what's the point of the FDA? Am I right? I don't know. Well, how is this happening? How did this ingredient get in there that was obviously not a safe ingredient? And it's totally an approved food. This is the way it happened. It all starts back in the 50s. Back in 1958, there was a food additive amendment made to the Federal Food and Drug and the Cosmetic Act. So, by the way, makeup and cosmetics fit into this too, which is one reason why we're doing what we're doing on Fridays and talking about some non-toxic options there as well. But they created this loophole and they entitled it generally recognized as safe ingredients, abbreviated GRAS, GRAS, generally recognized as safe. Well, first of all, they could have came up with a better title for it, I feel like, because right away, doesn't that kind of put up your alarms? Like, wait, generally recognized as safe? That alone, the title of it should get us all to pause. Back in the 50s, why didn't people pause more about this? But basically, these generally recognized as safe ingredients get an exemption. They are exempt from the FDA approval requirements. So it was intended, I do believe it's possible that maybe when they did this in the 50s, it was intended as a good thing. It wasn't intended as a loophole, maybe. Their thoughts were the common food ingredients, things like vinegar and ironically flour, baking soda, just standard kind of spices, all those things. They could bypass the safety reviews when a new food was coming to market, because those are all, common things that the FDA shouldn't have to spend time investigating, was the idea. The Food Additive Amendment states that for the substance to be a generally recognized as safe ingredient, it should be, I quote, among experts qualified by scientific training and expertise to evaluate its safety. And that safety should be adequately shown through scientific procedures. Okay, so it sounds like they're not really making a loophole. It sounds like there's supposed to be somebody checking this out, right? But here's the thing, the statute did not explain how that recognition would be carried out. Congress left that entirely up to the FDA. And the FDA could provide the details on who the experts were, what their training and experience would look like, and what the FDA might do to confirm the validity of those tests. Like that was all up to the FDA. Congress said, you guys figure this out. We're going to pause this episode because I have something important to ask you. Do you ever use botanicals or adaptogens in your drinks? Did you know that you don't need to just have a glass of tea or a glass of water or a smoothie or protein shake even? You can up-level your drink to improve your overall health in really cool ways just by a very simple, small addition. Now, there are so many options, it can get overwhelming. But for one thing, if you want to go check out the drinks that I have in my summer drink series, go to solelyrested.com/summer drink, because I have found sneaky little ways to deliciously add botanicals and adaptogens to a lot of the drinks that I'm introducing to you over there for this whole series on summer drinks. And I think you're really going to love it. But definitely check out the code that I have for you and the link to the Botanicals website. But you don't have to overthink it. You don't have to learn what these botanicals do for you and how they're going to help your health in different ways and then figure out how to add it to a drink. Just go try some of these recipes. You're going to love them. There's options there that are going to help you with weight loss, with adding antioxidants to your day, even some options that'll give you some energy with zero, what's the word I want to use? Zero downside, no crash. It's a simple word, zero crash, but lots of great energy. And there's also things that are going to boost your metabolism in really great ways. So I think you're going to love it. Just go check it out. Really, trust me. Solelyrested.com/summer drink. Solelyrested.com/summer drink. And check out those discount codes while you're there. If you try some of these recipes, reach out. Let me know which one's your favorite. I don't know if I can choose. They're all delicious. Solelyrested.com/summer drink. So back in the 50s, when Congress gave this responsibility to the FDA and they left the whole door open as to how they wanted to specifically do the requirements. At first, the FDA, it seems like, when I read about it, it seems like, again, they had good intentions and it seems like they were doing their job. But I mean, it's human nature, right? You get a new job and you want to prove yourself and you're gung ho and you're excited about it. But then after a while, especially if it gets maybe boring, but definitely harder and more complicated because there's all kinds of layers added on to your responsibility and there's just new factors you didn't have in the beginning. Anybody tends to, unless they really check themselves, start taking the easy way out, right? And not caring as much. Well, I don't know if that's what happened with the FDA or exactly, I don't know the reasons behind it, but in the 90s, things changed and really started spiraling downhill. I actually found a resource that explains this very well. I will link this resource in the show notes, and I'm actually going to read you a few paragraphs right from this because instead of Michelle embellishing her thoughts, I'm going to give you the facts. At first, the FDA maintains some control over those generally recognized as safe ingredients. They publish lists of substances that the FDA confirmed fit into this category. But in 1997, the FDA gave up any claim to controlling this process. Like, wait, what? Okay, here I am embellishing, right? But I mean, Congress put the responsibility on their shoulders and suddenly they're going, we're going to give up that responsibility. I mean, that shouldn't have been allowed, right? I don't know. Congress should have had a check and balance system there somehow. Okay, so they gave up claim to controlling the process, proposing new rules that gave the food and beverage industries the authority to to self-certify that a new food chemical was safe, that it was legally a generally recognized as safe ingredient without any FDA oversight. The FDA also created a voluntary notification system. Did you hear that adjective? It was voluntary. That's a huge part of this problem. It was a voluntary notification system through which a company could inform the FDA, if the company chose to do so, that it had determined a chemical was a generally recognized as safe ingredient. So they didn't even have to tell the FDA. They could put these chemicals on this list and not even send a notice, not even like a sticky note or an email to the FDA to let them know, hey, there's a new ingredient on this list. Well, once a generally recognized as safe notice is submitted, if the company does choose to send that email or give that sticky note to the FDA, the FDA then has 30 days to review it. And they can respond. First of all, 30 days? Like that's not long enough, right? Anyway, they can respond with a letter stating that the FDA has no questions about the basis for this whole process they used to determine the ingredient was generally recognized as safe. Alternatively, the FDA has another choice. They can question whether the notice provides a sufficient basis for the generally recognized as safe determination. But either way, the company is free. Even if the FDA does that second thing, the company is free to start using the ingredient since that determination is made by the company, right? They determined that back in 97. It's no longer a decision made by the FDA. This is the second pathway that companies can follow in order to add a new ingredient to our food supply. So they can choose to notify the FDA and tell them this is what we're doing, or they can just pretend they did it and put it on the list and never tell the FDA. The third route is even more problematic. Given that a generally recognized as safe ingredient is, and notifying them about it, is entirely voluntary, a food company can simply choose to never notify the FDA after it makes this determination. The company can then start using the ingredient in their food without the FDA even knowing. The FDA has no idea what ingredients are in the food that is labeled FDA safe. Now, you explain to me how that works, how that is allowed. It's insane. So, not only does the FDA not approve the ingredients, they don't even know they're there. This pathway within the GRAS loophole is called the secret GRAS pathway. The public cannot know how many of these secret, generally recognized as safe determinations occur every year. Heck, maybe every day, because there is no requirement to report them. So some companies may choose. I mean, we all know this, right? Like, this is pretty obvious. They may choose to do nothing. They may make a choice to not do any safety review. Granted, that would be an illegal choice. Granted, they could have some major lawsuits, as I imagine. I didn't research it more, but I imagine the whole Crumble incident had some major lawsuits. But in the end, how many people actually realized their organ failure was coming from the Crumble food and actually went to the effort of doing a lawsuit? Like, in the end, maybe it's cheaper, right? To just pay off the lawyers and avoid the cost of all the research, or avoid the cost of finding a healthier ingredient. I don't know, guys, but okay, so it would be illegal, but the FDA has no way to literally require companies to do a safety review. There's just no check and balance for it. It just doesn't exist. So, yeah, I mean, it just can't be done. This whole generally recognized as safe thing is ridiculous. It is a total sham. In the beginning, it might have had a good purpose, but now it's a total loophole. And that's the only reason it's there, for big companies to make more money and get wealthier. That's what it's there for food company CEOs to be billionaires. That's why this loophole is there. It's not there to protect us in any way, that's for sure. So, back to that whole TerraFlower thing, there's no actual public evidence that I could find that said TerraFlower was ever determined to be generally recognized as safe, as far as I could find. Now, it doesn't mean it didn't happen, but I already forget the name of the company. I told you I didn't know them. Daily Harvest. Um, there's no evidence I could find that Daily Harvest did do all those things the FDA says they have to do before they put this ingredient on the generally recognized as safe list. They have to have experts doing these things and they have to document it. I couldn't find that that was done. If this ingredient had been vetted closely and carefully before it ever was allowed into any foods, and if the FDA had actually been notified or petitioned for an approval, and then in those very short 30-day window, if the FDA actually had researched it, which who knows if they would have, but if they had, it's possible maybe this outbreak could have been prevented. Maybe people would not have literally lost the function of some of their important organs um, if those steps had actually been followed. But here's the thing. Here's what it all comes down to. We can't rely on a government agency to choose important things for us and our family. I mean, I decided long ago to not allow a government agency to choose what my children were going to be learning on a daily basis. And we can't allow them to choose what doctor we're going to go see. Or we can't give the government the right to make our medical decisions that we should be the ones making for ourselves and our children. Um, and we certainly we're learning, right? Can't allow the government to make the choice of what food is safe for us to eat. If, I mean, we just, we can't. If you think that the government is policing this for us, if you think that what's best for you and your children is to rely on the government to make these decisions because they have your best interest at heart, then honestly, I mean, you're being naive. You they Okay, first of all, they don't know you, right? A government agency does not know Michelle Visser and my family members. But second of all, how could they, even if they did know all of us personally, make a blanket decision that would literally be good for all of us? I mean, that's just not possible. That needs to be individually done, right? Not a blanket nationwide decision. But third, I mean, what it really comes down to is we can't be lazy about this. We have to do the hard thing. And in the end, we're going to be better for it. But we have to take some of these things into our own hands. We have to educate ourselves and make the choices that are genuinely best for ourselves and our family. But I mean, I tell you guys this often too. You can't lose sleep over it. You can't, you're never going to be able to eliminate all the toxins in your home. I mean, we talk about that on our Friday mini episodes. It's just not possible. They're going to be in your home. And we can't always eat only the best ingredients. We can't always make the absolute best choices of what's going in our mouth for food and drink. But what we can do is choose those places that matter the most to our family, the places that can make the largest impact if we just make a small choice. So that's the hard first step, is to figure that out. And then the next hard step is just to start. Just start learning about that thing that you know can improve and can make a difference in your health. And then in a decade of just doing those little tiny things one step at a time, you are going to be shocked at all that you've learned and what you've improved and what you've been able to accomplish. And it's just going to keep getting better from there. So I want to end on that good note, that this is the good thing. Don't be discouraged because you listened to this story, and don't start worrying about that terraflower to the point that it becomes an obsession. um, Instead, be thankful that, hey, now you're educated about this, right? And just because something's FDA approved really doesn't mean anything. And instead, you can start taking these things into your own hands. You can start just one tiny step at a time, feeling much better about your decisions and genuinely improving your health. Like I said, who knows where you are going to be in a decade? You're going to be a much improved, happier, healthier person because of the effort you're putting in right now. So I'm excited about that, guys. I've seen it in my own life, and who knows where the next decade might take me. Who knows? It's exciting to think about. So, thanks for listening, friends. Remember, it's easy to forget how blessed we are to live this life. So enjoy those simple, everyday efforts, even the really hard ones where you have to start taking these matters into your own hands. Enjoy it. It's not easy, but it's a very good life.